From brokenness to blessings, Stepica's path to redemption, a call for moral reform. The island of Stepica is a charming yet small Christian tropical island, endowed with an abundance of nature's treasures, including fruits, stunning white sand beaches, oil, marl, gold, bauxite, vast agricultural land, freshwater sources, waterfalls, and an unparalleled scenic beauty that can relax you with just a glance if you are oblivious to the harsh and unexpected dangers that lurk. Indeed, beneath all the breathtaking attractions of this island lies the stark truth that it is plagued by corruption, crime, and violence, along with lawlessness, indiscipline, immorality, unfaithfulness, poverty, inequity, lack of employment opportunities, and laziness. However, with Prime Minister Johnberg having lost the general election, Joydash Wright now faces the challenge of being the new Prime Minister, a woman who has bravely vowed to confront this colossal problem like David facing Goliath. What elements within her current manifesto aim to address and eradicate this peril, and how will she eliminate the corruption that has tainted every ministry? Prime Minister Wright has committed to governing with a firm hand against corruption, beginning with political leaders and extending to the lowest members of society. She emphasized that no one will be spared, regardless of race, color, financial status, or political affiliation. There will be no exceptions or favoritism, even if the corrupt individual is herself or a family member. Everyone is equal under the law, she stated. These sentiments were echoed frequently during her campaign, and now we will attend the parliamentary session to hear excerpts from her extensive speech outlining her prospective governing agenda. Our island is broken. We've traded our values for chaos, our peace for pain. But today that changed. To politicians, including myself, I will issue an executive order stating that no politician will be above the law, and if any questionable issues arise concerning a politician, that leader will be immediately suspended until the situation is investigated and appropriate legal action is taken. All cases involving living former politicians that have remained unresolved and appear to fade into oblivion will be revisited and processed accordingly. If an ordinary citizen cannot escape responsibility for their actions, then neither should those whom they have elected to manage their interests be allowed to evade consequences. I firmly believe they should face stricter punishment than the average person. Politicians who oppose this rule must provide valid reasons for why they believe they should be exempt from scrutiny and punishment for fraudulent activities. Furthermore, I will allow the Auditor General to examine your finances, and the police will investigate any potential criminal misconduct. If we find no wrongdoing, I will consider your arguments on this matter. Separately, investigations into numerous allegations will resume tomorrow, and some will begin anew. Please be aware that assets will be seized, stolen funds must be repaid, and corrupt officials will be dismissed from their positions, with due process followed just as it would be for any ordinary citizen who cannot afford legal representation. There will be a meeting with contractors from the oil, bauxite, and gold mining sectors. It is unacceptable that we have these resources while our people suffer. At least 60% of our citizens must be employed at each facility with fair compensation that matches or exceeds that of foreign workers or contractors. Our communities and the country must receive tangible benefits from these industries. Therefore, I will instruct the Ministry of Finance and Planning to conduct a thorough audit of the financial activities of these plants to determine where the billions of dollars are being allocated. We must redirect these financial gains to create jobs and improve our country's infrastructure. We have the resources to help our citizens rebuild and lead fulfilling lives. We simply need to eliminate corruption and selfishness. The Ministry of Commerce's Export Division will seek export markets for our surplus agricultural products, which will increase thanks to the involvement of prison labor in the agricultural sector. I will address this matter further in my presentation. We now have 2 food and drink technicians who will help us produce our own mango, pineapple, tomato, melon, and pumpkin juice, so that surplus products will no longer go to waste. We also have 2 individuals from Italy who will produce sun-dried tomatoes and other tomato byproducts. The two processing factories, one in Jonestown and the other in Mary Penn, will be reopened, employing approximately 100 people. A portion of the income from these products will be used to provide better subsidies for our farmers. The Ministry of Commerce will have a special unit with representatives in local municipalities to work with data collected by local governments regarding employment and funding for small businesses. Many great ideas from our 4-H club and 12th grade students die without support. We must help those with entrepreneurial drive develop their own small businesses. We will assist them in creating effective business plans and provide training seminars on how to manage and build sustainable businesses. Stepica, as of today, will be a place where color, financial status, or political affiliation are irrelevant. There is too much inequality. Some judges will be terminated and others will be recused from certain cases. Large private sector companies that have taken loans from the pool of funds that were granted to small entrepreneurs must repay them in full within 6 months. Large commercial banks will no longer regulate and distribute these funds. These funds were given to the island in good faith for small entrepreneurs, and the banks have set the requirements so high that prospective business owners cannot qualify. A special loan agency will be established to regulate and disperse these funds to those who deserve them most. We need an effective team to monitor, supervise, and guide these new businesses so they can grow and flourish. Money will not be given directly. Instead, goods and machinery will be identified, pro forma invoices provided, and the names and salaries of employees, along with utility and rent costs, must be submitted. These are just points of reference. The committee will handle the specifics. These are some measures we will implement to reduce poverty. A hungry man unable to meet his basic needs is more likely to turn to crime. We must address the root causes of poverty. In the hotel sector, top management receives exorbitant salaries while housekeeping and core labor staff are shockingly underpaid, some even below minimum wage. This must end today. The government cannot provide special tax incentives if no benefits are passed on to your core workforce. Consider this. Can you run a 50 to 500 room hotel without housekeepers and other essential workers? Please hold meetings and improve these conditions. Do not force my further involvement. If you cannot give fair wages, you will not receive incentives. I will tax you instead and let the workers receive the benefits. Choose your preference. Factory owners, I do not want to hear of any more worker demonstrations or complaints about a lack of proper safety gear or unsafe working conditions. Treat others as you would want to be treated. If you need help, ask, but take the necessary steps today to correct these issues. I am calling on the Bureau of Standards to ensure all factories are properly certified and comply with the Factories Act. Public agencies are paid by taxpayers to serve the people, and civil servant workers failing to do so will be held accountable. We will conduct independent evaluations and audits, and I am not bluffing. The axe will fall on unproductive trees. We will be reorganizing and cleansing the police force and army of any corrupt officers. No exceptions will apply. To guarantee impartiality and justice, we will engage investigators and special security personnel from foreign nations to help achieve our objectives. Any members of the security forces who have ongoing legal cases and are still on duty will be suspended until their cases are adjudicated. Police officials whose trial files are reportedly missing will face sanctions, along with the internal office personnel responsible for record keeping, until those files are recovered or the truth about their disappearance is revealed. Such illegal practices and nonsense must come to an end. Influential and wealthy citizens of this island who are under investigation and have cases pending in court should not think of escaping on the first available flight. Before I arrived here this morning, I ensured that the names of some of these individuals were communicated to the relevant port authorities to prevent any departures by air, sea, or land. Even if one were to take their own life, it would signify guilt. Therefore, we will implement a law to liquidate their assets and compensate the injured parties. The island of Stepica will strive to be liberated from corruption, crime, violence, indiscipline, lawlessness, and laziness. I must apologize to those overweight law enforcement officials Or perhaps I should say that I now feel pleased for you, as many of your desks will remain unoccupied because you will be actively engaging with the communities, carrying your tablets and notebooks and shoulder bags. Every neighborhood must be secure, particularly those adjacent to our coastlines. Relevant information must be collected, as we are implementing measures to safeguard our shores. You will note the points I have mentioned that must be established in every community. No neighborhood will be exempt, and we will no longer tolerate ghettos. Only essential personnel will remain in the office, necessitating scheduled days and times for administrative tasks while spending time in the community where issues arise. I will be collaborating closely with the Police Commissioner and Army Commander General to guarantee that our security agenda is meticulously followed. All gangs must be dismantled, and criminals will face consequences as dictated by law, and this will be executed swiftly and effectively. My strategy for addressing gang activities will be shared with the police and Army Commander later today. Just to highlight, we have 10,000 soldiers, 3,000 in reserve, 12,000 police officers, and 5,000 retired officers who we can call upon. We are initiating a comprehensive 3-month operation to eliminate all gangs and criminal elements. Those obstructing our efforts will also be swept up in this initiative. Gangs and corruption will no longer dictate this country. It stops today. Where the oversized officers can't go, the slim will, and where police cannot reach, soldiers will step in. We are engaged in an internal battle, and I will not yield. For 3 relentless months, these security personnel will not merely patrol. They will be equipped with the latest technological devices available to aid in capturing criminals. We have secured pledges for 500 drones, with plans to purchase 1,000, alongside highly trained dogs and mini robots equipped with metal detectors to assist in recovering illegal firearms. Additionally, we will order 5,000 tasers and body cameras for officers, which must be worn while on duty. Officers are authorized to use their firearms if necessary, but they should utilize other means whenever possible. However, the Private Integrity Committee is set up to ensure that the combined security forces do not abuse their authority. We are trying to solve problems, not create more. Therefore, we expect our security forces to behave in a united professional manner, by the law and good judgment. All corrupt police officers will be tagged while doing hard labor to dissuade others from engaging in similar misconduct, and they will be shackled while they undertake community cleaning, including towns and drainage systems. However, those guilty of murder will undertake tasks such as digging marl, breaking stones, creating yam hills, and mixing mortar. Every community will have 3 days to report to the Ministry of Security the locations and owners of large empty houses or buildings. We need to accommodate additional prisoners until their processing is complete. Rest assured, there will be no chance of escape. Prisoners will be shackled, and tracking devices will be placed on every individual in custody. They will not only be housed, they will also be required to work during the day. We are committed to fostering an environment that encourages change because we believe that people can transform their lives if they choose to do so. Starting 4 months from now, taxpayer funds will no longer be used to provide meals for prisoners. Since we are a nation that believes in serving the Lord Jesus Christ and aims to show compassion where possible if we are not executing the murderers sentenced to death or those sentenced to life, then they must be adequately punished otherwise. Therefore, they will be required to work to improve the lives of the individuals they have harmed and in turn benefit the country. Each prisoner will participate in various work sectors. They will work on farms to feed themselves and others, dig marl to produce blocks for housing construction, and ultimately, we will see an end to all informal settlements and zinc fences. The Ministry of Agriculture will be responsible for identifying the most suitable agricultural projects for each parish and community. The National Land Department will then pinpoint available government land in each parish and recommend the best use for it. Special mangroves and woodlands that are essential for watershed conservation and endangered species will remain untouched. The government will seek to lease or assist landowners with large, unused properties to develop them, as we will no longer allow these large areas to serve as hiding spots for criminals or drug dealers or be left overgrown with vegetation. Some property owners may be unable to maintain their land while refusing to sell or lease. This practice must cease. We will discuss these matters at the parish and community level. Prisoners will be engaged in breaking stones to make, repair, and improve farm roads and construct low-income houses. No citizen should be sleeping on the street, none. The prisoners will also clear drains and gullies and perform many other tasks. Taxpayer funds will no longer be allocated for these activities. We will establish a database at the parish level for every inmate to evaluate their skills or professional backgrounds, which will guide us in determining their work assignments in labor. The punishment must fit the crime. We cannot allow prisoners to spend their days idly, receiving 3 meals and appearing comfortable, while hard-working taxpayers struggle to provide for them. Prison should be a punishment, not a reward. Under my leadership, comfortable prison stays for serious criminals will end. It's unacceptable that some prisoners live in luxury, seemingly rewarded for their crimes. This lenient approach has failed as a deterrent. Released prisoners often appear to have enjoyed a vacation, which is the opposite of what prison should be. Therefore, on the island of Stepica, we will reinstate corporal punishment. We will no longer treat these heartless criminals with leniency. Their ruthless and wicked actions demand a strong, felt punishment. People must act like humans, not wild animals. Inmates will rise each morning at 5 a.m. for devotion, and they will be chosen at random to lead prayers. They will depart for their work sites at 6 a.m., and inmates will be spaced apart in the fields to allow for individual evaluation and to prevent any collaboration among them. Breakfast will be served in the fields at 10 a.m., followed by lunch at 2 p.m., and work concludes at 5 p.m. The prison will be secured by 8 p.m. All prison guards will be relocated and reassigned to positions closer to their homes where possible. We need to eliminate the smuggling of contraband into the cells. After inmates leave for work, every cell must undergo a thorough search by 2 individuals, with one documenting the search on video. Any prohibited items discovered will be documented, and the prisoner will be held accountable, along with anyone who assisted them in smuggling those items. Border security will be significantly strengthened. All entry and exit points will be thoroughly assessed and necessary security measures implemented. This will also involve a complete overhaul and reorganization of our customs departments. Corruption, such as accepting bribes to allow contraband, illegal weapons, and goods to pass through, will not be tolerated. We will import and train thousands of security dogs and install advanced X-ray equipment to improve the inspection and clearance of goods. Stepica will no longer be a haven for criminals. The thousands of unresolved cases before the courts must be addressed swiftly, as the current adjudication process takes far too long. To tackle this backlog, we will implement round-the-clock court sessions with judges working in shifts. Additionally, 5 distinguished judges who previously retired early, known for their outspoken stance against corruption and inefficiencies in the justice system, will return temporarily for 2 to 3 years to assist in clearing these cases. To further expedite proceedings, 5 of our largest community center auditoriums will be temporarily repurposed to host court sessions 5 days a week. Meanwhile, all city courts will now operate 5 days per week instead of 3, with only the city courts running day and night. Minor offenses, such as traffic and petty cases, will be handled at local police stations. Public passenger operators in this country have been subjected to excessive taxation, an injustice that will not continue under my administration. I have directed the Minister of Transportation to overhaul the regulations governing the operation of public passenger vehicles. Why should an individual striving to earn an honest living be burdened with multiple road license fees, one for a private motor vehicle and another for public passenger use, alongside exorbitant motor vehicle fitness fees, high insurance costs due to associated risks, operator identification badges, mandatory uniforms, route labeling expenses, fuel taxes, and, on top of it all, corruption in traffic law enforcement. Some officers even go as far as riding in these vehicles without paying their fare. Let me be clear, Those corrupt officers should reconsider their actions before we take action against them. At the end of the year, operators must also file annual returns, often having to pay someone to prepare their financial reports. These excessive taxes and fees push individuals toward desperate measures. In an environment already plagued by corruption, scamming, and drug-related activities, some may feel forced into illegal means of survival. My people, these measures are not just burdensome, they are harsh, unjust, and merciless. Here are some critical reforms I intend to implement. Public passenger vehicles will require only one road license instead of two. Fitness fees, often are little more than a legalized scam, will be eliminated. Most vehicles are not even mechanically inspected at depots. Instead, money changes hands while the vehicle continues operating elsewhere. Moving forward, the same valuation report required for insurance will also be submitted when registering for a road license. The public passenger vehicle license will automatically qualify the operator for an identification badge, provided they have no criminal record that disqualifies them under Transportation Ministry guidelines. Vehicle labeling will remain, but uniforms will no longer be mandatory. Drivers should simply maintain proper hygiene and dress professionally while transporting passengers. Gas taxes will be removed. These changes are essential to creating a fairer, more just system for our people. Substandard workmanship on our roads will no longer be tolerated under my administration. No roadwork marked complete should deteriorate within 5 years unless an unforeseen natural disaster occurs. I am not here to enrich dishonest individuals. This type of corruption ends now. All departments involved with public roads must collaborate, and all necessary infrastructure must be in place before the road surface is laid. The Water Commission must identify and document all areas with old rusty pipes and leaks. If any road repairs are done in these areas, the Water Department must replace the pipes before the road surface is completed. If they fail to do so and subsequently dig up the new road, the Water Department workers will be personally responsible for the repair costs, and the repair must meet the road engineer's standards. We will consult with foreign engineers to establish proper road guidelines if we lack expertise locally. This constant, recurring repair of the same roads every 6 months or every year must stop. Stepica Island will transform into one of the wealthiest and safest islands globally, where individuals can roam freely without constantly looking over their shoulders, allowing them to walk the streets at any hour without experiencing fear or anxiety. This marks the beginning of the end of widespread wrongdoing and chaos. Every elected official, from members of parliament to district councilors, will need to demonstrate their effectiveness to receive compensation, and I will ensure they are rewarded appropriately for their efforts and held accountable for every taxpayer dollar they receive. I will urge them to abandon dishonest practices like inflating bills, cost overruns, and nepotism, and all those who plan to join the corruption train for personal gain. I encourage you to consider a healthier approach, as it will not succeed under my leadership. Every able-bodied man in our nation is expected to work if he is mentally capable, including those with disabilities. There is a job available for every man. All school-age children are required to attend school from kindergarten through high school until they turn 18. All males aged 18 and older who have completed high school must either enroll in a skill training center, attend a tertiary institution, or be gainfully employed. Those who are not employed or enrolled in any of the institutions will be managed according to the government's plan. What does the plan entail? An interview and assessment will be conducted at the district level to determine the best course of action for those males who are unassigned. For instance, if a young man is under 18 and not attending school, he will be enrolled in educational programs. If he is 18 or older and unwilling to pursue further education, he will be placed in a training institution to acquire skills, or he will be employed in one of the government work programs. All counselors must be from their respective districts and should be familiar with their constituents, who, in turn, should know them, as a survey will be conducted of every household, ensuring that every male citizen in every community is accounted for. The criminals who are living in hills and bushes will not be overlooked. The soldiers, drones, dogs, and other technological devices will reach. There will be no places for anyone to hide on this island. We aim to restore primary socialization within the home, with mothers' working hours set from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., while men will work full-time. Mothers must ensure that their families have a healthy breakfast in the mornings and return home in time to prepare dinner and attend to their family's needs. Our children must be well-groomed and trained to become respectful and well-mannered adults. And the responsibility for this should not rest solely on teachers. Parents must fulfill their roles, with mothers providing the nurturing and support their families need. Consequently, no child should attend school without having had breakfast. This is why we are launching one of the best agricultural programs imaginable. Food must be affordable so that every household can be nourished with healthy meals. Every school will be equipped with a proper computer system and data management program, enabling teachers to input daily attendance and send reports to parents on the same day their child was absent without excuse. For any student who misses school for 2 consecutive days without valid justification from the parents, the guidance counselor will contact the parents to take appropriate measures as outlined by the Ministry of Education. Our society is currently facing issues with indiscipline, as many children are behaving like adults. Thus, those who are too difficult for their parents to manage will be housed and trained in a government facility for that purpose. The island of Stepica will no longer tolerate indiscipline. It ends today. All students will be required to adhere to the school's dress code. Female prison seamstresses and male prison tailors will assist in making school uniforms for children whose parents require assistance. Furthermore, just as students must dress appropriately, teachers must also present themselves well, eliminating tight or revealing outfits among educators and their support staff. Adults must lead by example. We will ensure that every parish and educational institution has safe, proper school buses for transporting children. There should be no audible music played on these school buses. Individuals who wish to listen to music should use headphones instead. All students are required to be seated appropriately on the bus, and they should not be gathered in groups or standing while the vehicle is in motion. No girl should be seen sitting on a boy's lap. Bus drivers will be held responsible for adhering to these regulations. No children should be on the streets an hour after school has ended. The police and other security officials, whom I will address later, will ensure this rule is enforced. If students have legitimate reasons for being out at that time, they must provide documentation as proof of their whereabouts and purpose for being on the road. For example, this may include visits to the doctor, extracurricular activities, or additional lessons, in which case the relevant school or institution must sign and stamp up a conscient form to excuse the student. Our island has abundant freshwater resources, so no home should be without piped water. All councillors and members of Parliament will be held accountable for ensuring their communities meet this basic requirement. We will focus on producing goods and services to improve our socioeconomic status. Our citizens' lives must improve, and this includes access to reliable electricity. We have identified a training institution in China to train our selected citizens in solar panel manufacturing. We are also seeking individuals with existing solar panel expertise, both locally and internationally. Interested parties should contact the Ministry of Industry and Commerce with their information and skills. We aim to establish at least 5 solar panel factories here. We have ample sunlight and should not be burdened by high electricity bills or power outages. The economic pressure on our citizens must be relieved. Our people deserve to be happy, not just struggling to survive. Depression, oppression, and suppression create stress, which leads to various health problems. Many post offices are underutilized or closed. To alleviate overcrowding in revenue departments, we will train at least 2 staff members at each post office to collect small taxes, such as traffic fines, vehicle fees and licenses, and process applications for taxpayer registration numbers. Loitering will no longer be permitted on our roads and street corners. Funds saved from reducing waste and recovering from corrupt officials will be used to install solar-powered streetlights and security cameras in designated areas, not just in towns but also in our communities. Public indecency will no longer be tolerated. Men wearing their pants swagging below their waist will not be tolerated. While individuals can dress as they please in their homes, public spaces require respect for decency. Similarly, women must dress respectfully. Transparent clothing, excessively short dresses, or skirts that reveal the buttocks when bending or sitting are unacceptable. This takes effect tomorrow, February 3rd, 2025. Public transportation will be prohibited from carrying anyone dressed in this manner. The penalty will be community service. Public events with partial nudity are banned. All entertainment events must be held in designated venues. These venues, if not fully enclosed, must have temporary partitions for the duration of the event and must exclude anyone under 18 years of age. Community dances and parties with amplified music in residential areas are also prohibited. We must respect our neighbors' privacy and peace. Explicit dance hall music will no longer be played on local radio or television stations or in public places. It will only be permitted at private parties and designated dance venues. Regarding imports and foreign investment, we will place a quota on the influx of cheap clothing to revitalize our local garment industry and provide jobs for our seamstresses. We will support young entrepreneurs who create knockoff brands by providing funding for machinery and raw materials, enabling them to establish their original shoe brands and reduce reliance on imports. I believe in free trade, but it should empower us, not harm us. We will assist tattoo artists in acquiring laser machines and materials to expand their artistic expression to other mediums like tile, wood, posters, and metal. Tattooing on the body will no longer be permitted. Our island's moral fabric has deteriorated. We have traded our values for pain and disorder. Too many children are fatherless, women have lost their husbands, mothers mourn their children, and entire families, including pets, are often killed. The Bible states, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Proverbs 14:34. We claim to be a Christian nation, yet we act contrary to the teachings of Jesus Christ. In the beginning, God created man and woman. Genesis 2:23-25. Marriage is defined as the union of a man and a woman. The Bible states that a man shall leave his parents and cleave to his wife, becoming one flesh. This ancient God-designed landmark is what we will uphold. We cannot continue to disobey God's teachings without facing consequences. The Bible says, if a calamity comes upon a city, has not the Lord caused it? Amos 3:6. We acknowledge our collective failings. We know homosexuality is wrong. It is an abomination to God, yet we have embraced it. We know premarital sex is wrong, yet it is now commonplace. We know adultery is wrong, yet it is glorified. We know we should not serve other gods, yet witchcraft is rampant on our island. How can we expect God's favor when we invite disaster through our actions? If our wicked deeds grieve even sinful men, how much more do they grieve the pure and holy God who created us to worship Him? Some say politics and religion don't mix. I say, how can we separate our faith from our responsibility to build a just and prosperous society? True prosperity, peace, and goodwill require repentance and reform. I am prepared to be a prime minister who leads by example in this regard. We must reverse the harmful norms that have taken root. Marriage will be defined as a union between a biological man and a biological woman. The proliferation of false pastors and prophets and their fraudulent churches will end. They have used manipulative prophecies and speeches to enrich themselves, deceiving their followers for personal gain. The fraud squad, along with an expanded labor force and the tax revenue department, will inspect the financial records of religious groups. This will ensure compliance with fair practices and prevent pastors and their families from profiting at the expense of their congregations. Churches should be nonprofit community care centers, not commercial businesses or family enterprises. We will examine their care ministries. What are they doing for the poor, the sick, the shut-ins, orphans, widows, widowers, the helpless, and the disenfranchised? How can pastors live lavishly while their impoverished members receive only empty promises of prayer? This is not the lifestyle of a true Christian. Pastors deserve fair compensation for faithful service, but it should not come from exploiting their congregations. We must eliminate false prophets and scammer pastors. In all successfully prosecuted corruption cases, the assets of the guilty parties will be seized and sold, with the proceeds going to the defrauded individuals or organizations. During my campaign, I began working on national reformation. A mobile app called IQ will soon be available. I urge any sex worker who desires to leave that lifestyle to download the app and complete the required fields. You will be scheduled for a health check at the nearest facility. After receiving your results, you will receive guidance on your next steps toward gainful employment. This may include returning to school for a degree or skill, starting your own business, or finding employment. These decisions will be made during your health check interview. Any woman continuing in prostitution should be doing so out of personal choice. To young people being pressured for sexual favors by parents, guardians, teachers, pastors, prophets, taxi drivers, etc., please use the app to contact us. For your safety, if you are concerned about a potential abuser seeing the app on your phone, you can access the Help tab on the app and complete the form there. We will handle it from there. Your safety is our priority. With God's help and the dedication of my team, we will restore sanity to this country. The immoral lifestyle of many women has led to many single-parent households, primarily headed by mothers, with fathers abandoning their responsibilities. This trend must stop. We have secured a company that will provide DNA testing machines at a reasonable price. We will support phlebotomists who dropped out of university due to financial constraints to complete their education, contingent on a signed 2-year contractual agreement to work for the government. We will begin the process using currently available equipment. From the birth of every child, we will record their DNA, along with information about the mother and any known information about the supposed father. If the supposed father is living with the mother or in contact with her, his DNA will be taken during the baby's registration. DNA records will be collected for all men in the country, from politicians to the homeless. We will establish paternity and hold fathers accountable for child support. Thank God we already have the DNA for most, if not upper to middle class men. We already have in this country by law that DNA results of men must be made available for paternity verification. To married men and women, I understand this may be difficult, but we must restore morality and sanity to our island. Wrong actions have consequences. We are in this situation because of the accumulation of small wrongs that have grown into a nearly uncontrollable problem. Therefore, the process of change will be tedious, strenuous, and painful, but we must make a conscious effort to change. Change requires a shift in mindset. Our current state is a direct result of our hypocrisy and failure to live according to Christian principles. These points are a summary of my intended actions. I promise to make the island of Stepica a desirable destination for decent, law-abiding people worldwide. We cannot live on this beautiful island and be unable to enjoy it because of criminals. In closing, I declare that all forms of witchcraft will be ineffective. Those sacrificing people must stop. Balm yards and storefronts advertising such practices will be shut down. We must end this wickedness. Any immigrant, legal or illegal, wishing to stay, will be assessed. If their home country's police records are clean and they are in good standing, their skills and capabilities will be evaluated. They will then be given appropriate documentation and work opportunities to support themselves and contribute to the nation's growth. At national events, special awards will be given to the cleanest and most outstanding communities and parishes. Local governments must take responsibility for their jurisdictions. Public littering must stop. We must live and behave like civilized people. My team and I will provide the necessary resources and accountability, and we expect public compliance. Civil servants must be paid fairly. We cannot continue to educate young people only to have them leave after graduation. We must implement measures to prevent brain drain and invest in our country. I will instruct my team to work with the Ministry of Education on cost-cutting measures to reduce tertiary education costs, ensuring that every qualified student who wishes to attend university here can do so. The cost of building materials will be lowered, making housing more affordable. Our island consumes a lot of chicken. To reduce the cost of chicken, we will use 3 existing buildings to produce nutritious chicken feed. We will partner with large private chicken farmers to expand their facilities and establish another large chicken farm in Markstown. The Markstown poultry farm workforce will consist primarily of prisoners not serving life sentences. No murderers will work at this farm. The poultry houses will be built with special rotating scarecrows on the roofs to deter wild birds from roosting and defecating on the roofs, preventing the potential spread of bird flu. All food and meat processing facilities must adhere to strict sanitation and safety standards. This will ensure that we can adequately feed our population with affordable chicken and meet the demand from 3 identified counties ready to purchase our poultry products. Expatriates operating businesses in our country must comply with our health and food safety standards. All food establishment owners and staff must possess food handle permits, and their facilities must be inspected regularly. We cannot apply double standards, inspecting local businesses while neglecting foreign-owned establishments. Inspections are in place to protect the health and safety of our citizens. Many foreign-owned supermarkets and restaurants attract more customers due to lower prices, and I am aware that the hygiene in some of these places, especially supermarkets, is questionable. Our citizens working for expatriate businesses must have NIS, NHT, and PAYE taxes deducted and paid to the government. While expatriate businesses will receive a 3-year tax break and therefore will not pay the employer portion of these taxes, they must deduct these taxes from their employees' gross pay and remit them to the government. No expatriate employer should pay any citizen less than the established minimum wage. Any employee receiving less than the minimum wage should immediately report it to the Labor Department. Do not fear job loss or mistreatment for reporting. If such actions occur, please report them as well. If these allegations are proven true, the offending employer will be required to leave our country. Stepica will uphold fairness and equal justice for all. We must provide housing and care for our citizens with mental health challenges, removing them from the streets where they may pose a danger to the public. There are 2 closed plazas, poorly located for traditional businesses, one in Blessville and another in Mama Bay. We would like to lease or purchase these buildings from their owners and renovate and expand them as needed for a mental health facility. Traffic indiscipline will not be tolerated. Drivers must obey traffic laws or face consequences. We will seize and revoke driver's licenses and even impound vehicles. Plan your trips to avoid speeding. Young and reckless drivers, be warned. Those who cannot read should not speed. Any driver caught violating traffic laws will be required to take a written driver's test on the spot, including a reading component. If you fail the on-the-spot road test, both oral and written, you will leave the location without your vehicle, as your license will be confiscated and further action will be taken based on your infractions. Stepica's road rules and speed limits must be obeyed. The Minister of Transport will elaborate on this. The numerous painful situations in Stepica are consuming our law-abiding citizens like a cankerworm. As long as night follows day, and I have breath in my body, by the power and will of Almighty God, Stepica will be better as of today. Repeat it to yourselves, internalize it, digest it, let it flow through your veins. Stepica is healed as of today. Lift your voices and praise the Lord Jesus Christ. Positive change has arrived. I have the will to fight, the courage and boldness to stand, and the team to help me execute. United we shall stand and conquer in Jesus' name. Thank you for electing me. I promise to exceed your expectations.